Good morning, Service Alliance community. How y'all doing today? What's up, brother Doug?
I think a Zach good morning on Monday mornings at my office, like a bugle horn, starting the day. We should do that. Would you let us have the rights to your good morning?
Sure, buddy.
Now, if we franchise and go into like 40, 50 locations, would you want a piece of the pie at this point that every Monday morning we start?
I mean, that's a little bit of work. So yeah, I might have to take a little cut. I might have to take a little cut there.
All right. Well, hey, let's share the wealth, the success, right?
It's it's a little better than Revel. What is it, Reveille or whatever?
Yeah. Wow, I don't know.
You go call.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on who you are. So
that's true.
I'm old. Grind
so
your gears a little bit in the morning, hearing those bugles.
Yeah, or the shrill of Zach, which is better, right?
Hey, potato, tomato.
That's it.
Good morning, guys. I think our Service Alliance community has gone to sleep. They put their brains in vacation mode, and they have checked out.
What do you mean? Like Garrison Howard? Is that the second time I've seen Garrison in the chat there, or has he been here a long time? And I'm just
we've seen Garrison a bunch of times.
Sorry.
We got Adam, we got Gary, but
Gary.
We don't have all of
the normal guys.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that could be a good thing. Saul was, still sleeping or trying to figure out how to make Cuban coffee or something this morning.
Yeah. So this past weekend, I tried to do nothing and I was successful. So it was a great weekend.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah. Slight guilt, but I reminded myself that was the task, was to do nothing. So.
Well, that's part of the theme of the week, right? Is work-life balance and mental fortitude, as it were. So don't feel guilty. It's good to, take those moments and shut it down sometimes.
Yeah. Little red flags, little triggers that normally aren't a problem when they are. Usually I know the cycle's coming. So it's usually humid, so I didn't really go outside too much, but it was a good weekend. Visited a church, different church this over the weekend. Sometimes in the summertime to get the whole family back into it, we'll go and visit. So it's pretty cool. Looks like the new trend for churches, Zach, is gray walls, black ceiling, and sort of like a Hillsong theater atmosphere. That's what all newer churches, the vibe is like, and it's not bad. I like it. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's got its place. It's
like, what's the next one, right? Like my church, the sanctuary is very, very large, and kind of the traditional wood molding and things like that, well lit. And I was trying to explain that to my daughter that when a church goes through a renovation, they're not going to pick, 1950s style. So, what's the next church going to look like, 15 years from now? What's the next trend?
You missed the beige and earth tones, because our church has kind of gone through that, where they had the old school and then they went to like the beige and earth tone from the 90s, and then now we're into that gray phase. Too much Pinterest for people.
Did you just roll your eyes like you don't have time for Pinterest? Come on, you have an account there.
I do have an account. I don't use it.
Right.
Well, we are talking mental toughness today, right? I did put in the description, if it were easy, everyone would do it. And you guys have probably heard that quote before. So we're going to talk about doing the hard things. What does that look like? What does it look like to build the mental strength to, when things get hard, when you have employees calling off and when you have, customers complaining, like, what does it look like to build that mental strength ahead of time to be able to handle through those tough situations? So we'll share some of the things that have worked for us, some of the strategies that we're currently trying, and some of the ways that we've kind of found to unplug from it all to regain that mental strength. So that's what we're talking about today. No, pray us up.
All right. Morning, Lord. Good morning, Lord. We thank you for this day. Lord, I think of the message that I heard over the weekend at church. The reminder that we're not just meant for this world to believe in you and to follow you, but also to be a disciple, to live out a life here on earth that reflects who you are. And God, again, the reminder of the message that we are all different and that we're going to do it in a unique way, using our own gifts and talents. But ultimately, that goal is to show the people around us, our family, our friends, our employees, our customers, what a picture of full love and grace of Christ is in our lives. And so, God, give us the strength, and give us the desire, give us the protection of your Spirit and the hope. Put the hope in front of us, Lord, that through these difficult times, our decisions, our words, our actions, but even more importantly, our thoughts, what our thoughts do will drive us. So, Lord, be a part of our thoughts and bring us to a place where we can serve others. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Man, something you said in that prayer, it's bigger than us, right?
Yeah.
And how much of our struggle, how much of our mental block and that fight that we have is because we don't always remember that it's way bigger than us, right?
Yeah.
We have goals like this big when, the reality is it's so much bigger.
That is.
Chicago monk.
Oh, good morning, Saul. He's
Good
back.
morning. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. He has his Cuban coffee and he's here and raring to go.
Yeah. And he derailed your comment and not mine. That's good. That's good. Your own ADHD affected you in that moment. That's pretty good. That's
Happens.
Pretty good. No, I like what you said, Zach. It's it makes life a lot easier when you realize that you are not the whole enchilada. You are just one part in the big picture of what God's trying to do, and that's a macro effect. That's the big picture, right? We can do that in our businesses. We can do that in our personal lives, even in our own thoughts, right? Personal goals that we set. That it's bigger than us. It's bigger than us.
Well, and I mean, I don't want to go all the way down the goals rabbit hole because you guys hear us talk about that pretty much nonstop. That's Doug and I's MO because really everything starts with that foundation. But if you haven't read Tommy Mello's book, Build a Business Where Everybody Wins, he really dives into that. And so he's set his goals so that other people's goals fit within inside it, right? Like if he set a goal this big, would someone else be able to buy a house with Tommy's goal being so small? No, it wouldn't. He wants his guys to be millionaires too. And so he has to set a goal big enough and create dreams big enough for other people to fit inside. And I think that's so much of where the mental fortitude comes when you realize it's not just you, it's not just about your little corner of the world. There are other people that can come alongside of you. Then it does become a little easier to do those hard things, right?
Yeah, you got to dream big. Your dream has to be able to involve many people. That's the trick.
Yeah.
EJ sent a podcast of Tommy Mello, and it in one part just triggered my mind. I already knew this, but he reminded me that he's got personal goals too. And one of them was his health. So at the same time, he's got a goal for his mind, his body, his family, his work, where 20 years down the road, and I was like, that's pretty important to take care of this. Otherwise, we're not going to be great leaders for the people around us.
Yeah.
His goal was ridiculous. It's like 1 or 2% body fat. I mean, that's that's dumb because donuts will derail that goal. So I won't make that goal. But my physical and mental health is going to get in the way of accomplishing the business goals, right? Might as well start at home at the same time.
I'm shooting to get back down to the 8 to 10% body fat. I got some work to do when I come out of season. This roofing season is, and this is the reality of it, right? So that's a great segue into the next piece. If we're not taking care of ourselves, then the mental fortitude is hard, right? So the moments where I have been in the worst place mentally is when I have been so far out of shape, so far out of taking care of my body, that it actually helped to create this real negative space in my mind for me. And it's not to say you can't overcome some of that, even if you're not in the place you want to be, as far as physical goes. But from my own experience, they are so interconnected that if you're not taking care of your body, if you're not fueling your body properly, if you're not getting some exercise for your body, then the mindset thing just becomes that much harder, right?
And nothing happens overnight, right, Zach? I mean, you can't just say, hey, next week I want to be this way. So you've got to, and it's kind of cool when you do set goals and you accomplish them. There's a momentum that happens behind it. And by the way, I'm about 75% body fat around the waist. And then in the neck, it's like 24. And then I'm like 0 right here in the wrists. Is that how you measure body fat?
No, not even close, buddy. Not even close.
Maybe I should study up on that a little bit.
No, but it does. When I was at my most unhealthiest in the physical spectrum, I was also the most unhealthy in mindset. And as I've worked to improve, and it is a spectrum, it does take time. Sometimes you go backwards and then you go forwards, but those moments where I've found better practice within being in tune physically, the mindset really does follow along with that, right? And then conversely, the mindset also drives the ability to push through on the physical side of things. So that is something that really will help sharpen and strengthen and help you get through. And there's something to be said about, I mean, like, nobody wants to go and ride 50 miles or run 10 miles or, lift weights for an hour, right? Like that, it's not normal to want to do that, right? And so when you can push through doing those hard things, it does begin to create this like grit within your brain where you're like, you know what, I did that. Yeah. Cool. I can do it again. And I can do this thing when it comes up. And, it begins to build that strength up. So,
yeah.
You have one of the, go ahead. I was going to say, you have one of the strongest mindsets of anyone that I met. Like, you really tend to stay in the positive spectrum of things. And that's not to say you don't have those moments where you're like, yeah, I'm glad Vale's not here to hear me, because I whine and complain. But how have you developed some of that mental strength to be in that more positive position, to be a better leader within your family and business?
But it certainly clicked in my brain that doing those, feeding a negative mindset is clearly 90% of the time going to lead to a bad conclusion. So there were little things that you do that just make your daily routine better. And then from there, I think reflecting on it and saying, okay, like when I was a tech on the road, Zach, I used to get my schedule emailed to me. And if I looked at it the night before or the weekend, that's what I was focusing on. I would be assuming the worst of a terrible schedule. I'd come to work and I'd wake up grouchy. I'd get in the truck. I'd be snippy with the office. I'd be cutting people off. And then I get home at 5:00. Like, what the hell was I thinking? Why did I assume the worst about making this day was going to be a terrible day. And then I found myself in that crazy cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think is what happens for me is it's when I go, I've been here before and I'm starting to feel, for lack of a better word, dumb. Like, did I just fool myself into a negative space again with assuming something that doesn't happen all the time? You know?
Did you have anyone around you at that time?
What's that?
Did you have anyone around you at that time? Like, was there anyone that you could talk to, a mentor, a peer group, anything?
No. And I thanks for bringing that up, because now that I'm off the road, you know, I even being off the road and running people, some Mondays I wake up and go, damn, the arthritis in this knuckle is killing me. I didn't get a lot of sleep. People are probably going to call out sick this weekend, you know, this week. And I just start to pile on. Why is it then the next Monday, for some reason, I wake up with a little pep in my step because I didn't drink coffee late at night. I got enough sleep. I didn't stay up late. And I'm ready to take on the week and kick ass. It's just, It's amazing how our chemical, our body, the way we feel physically, the way we're prepared mentally changes everything overnight. And so I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anybody. I just kind of figured that out on my own. You know, so now I meet with my staff once a month, and it's like I can see a guy who's in that space, and now I can talk to him and say, hey, you know, what's your plan? You know, what do you want to do 5 years from now? I know I don't want to do this. I am tired of this grind of getting up every day. And I go, yeah, I know that feeling, man, the grind. I know it. So then what do we got to do? What do you want to do? He goes, I want to lead the triage department at Action. You always talk about having one. I go, let's make a plan. It's going to be a couple years, but let's make a plan, right? He's like, let's do it. So now he's amped. Do I expect him to dip down and lose interest or get frustrated or bored with it or impatient? Yes. But together, we can do it, you know, reminding him, hey, stay on course. You're somebody that helps me stay on course, right? EJ. So I have people now that help me, but back then I didn't.
Well, and I guess that was my point. It's a lot easier now to stay in that better mindset when you have people around you. So if you want to have a stronger and sharper mindset, then you better get around people that have a stronger and sharper mindset. Yeah. For me, when I was around negative people all the time, when I was around toxic people, narcissists, just angry people, right? Mm-hmm. That fed into me, right? And I became more like that than the positive guy, than the happy guy, than the guy that could do anything, right? And so look around you and see who you're surrounding yourself with. If you're continually surrounding yourself with those people, you might need to find some better friends, right? Yeah, this is see, not sidetracking at this time. You probably had people, but not the right people, right? And that's the point. If you're not around the right group of people that are trying to better themselves, you're not going to better yourself either. You know, if you look around and everyone doesn't have goals and they're crabby all the time, you might want to look in the mirror, because chances are you don't have goals and you're crabby all the time.
Well, but I think there's seasons, Zach, and sometimes time can slow down, and a season of joy can feel like it went on forever, but it really went on for 2 weeks or just a month or something like that. I think it's a journey for life. Mm-hmm. You know, like what you and I have learned so far, either through trial and error or epiphany or God or a mentor.
Or a combination.
It does not stop at some point. You don't graduate and then you just live. Because then we have to deal with the next stages of our lives, whether it's planning to leave the business or to sell the business or to take the next chapter in your life. If you set yourself up to not be prepared, that's crazy. You know, now, like I still have to work through this, Zach. I never shared this with you before. So I do assume the best of others and, you know, try not to dwell on the negative. just try to come up with a solution, the next best approach to overcome it.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you that sometimes it's so overwhelming, or I have no answer, that I just ignore it. I just ignore that aspect or that issue, and I do nothing with it. And what do you think happens when you do nothing with something that's negative in your life?
It grows.
It does. It does. But like weeds in your yard, or mold on a piece of cheese or bread, it just starts here and then poof, and now it's a problem that you have to deal with. And I do get overwhelmed with problems that are bigger than myself, weirdly enough. But then when you're like, what I'm trying to do with Action Appliance, it's a gigantic thing. But taking it on piece by piece in a positive way, that's a fun journey. But ignoring the bread on the counter, and then 3 days later it's completely molded out, that's what I do. A little bit of that. I ignore things that are overwhelming to me, or if I don't have a solution, I'll put it off for another day. Not good.
And I think that's where the power in peer groups and masterminds and mentors comes in, because the reality is we are not always strong enough to handle that on our own, right? And in fact, more often than not, we aren't, right? Like, we were designed to be in community. And so if you're not in community, if you're not around these people all the time, it is harder to move forward. And so, wouldn't it be great if you had a mentor or a mastermind community that can come alongside of you and go, you know what? Hey, you're ignoring that moldy bread, and you're doing great over here. That rock on. Yeah. But you're ignoring the problem, like the thing molding in the corner. Like, let's work through that together. Like, let's talk about why we're ignoring that. And so having people to come alongside you is one of those great things for your mental health, your mental fortitude. Another thing, just do it. Right? Like, just do the dang thing. Like, just do the hard thing. Right?
That works some of the time.
It does. Sometimes
it's too big. Sometimes it's too big. Like, just recently in my peer group mastermind, had a couple to-do items. Just they weren't moving. They stayed on there, and we get on once a week, and it's the shame walk, right? When you have to tell your peers that you didn't get these 3 things done. But when you have someone that cares about you and that's gifted in that way, like Ginny Seeley, and I've seen her do it with other people, and you'd think that me witnessing Ginny doing the magic with another person in our group, going, hey, do this. It's like, why I didn't apply it, because I was stuck. And there she was. She's like, all right, let's break it down. Let's break it down into smaller bites, Doug. What's the first thing you gotta do? And I was like, oh, she's doing it to me. And I was like, I buckled in. I said, let's go for a ride. And it took me a minute, thought about it, and back on track. So take just the first tiny bite and move from there. Momentum comes from it.
I guess that's my point, though. Sometimes that first step is the hardest step.
Hardest one. Yeah.
Right. And so that's what I mean by do the thing. Do the hard thing. Like, there's that thing that grips you. You won't even take that first step because it's just so overwhelming. But it's not. You don't have to do it all in one shot, right?
It's like schedule something, call someone, inform someone. If you do that, then when they get back to you, or when you have to go to the appointment, well, you've got no choice. So just do it means grab that first thing, the spark that's going to ignite the plan, right?
And there is wisdom in taking things down into steps, and that's where the goal setting plays so much into how to create a strong mindset. If you're not writing down goals, and I challenged you the other day because I was challenged the other day. This little notebook lives with me, and I have 5 things that I put down every morning that I have to get done so that I feel accomplished at the end of the day. And if I don't get them done before the end of the day, guess what? I'm staying up longer to get them done. Right. And so there is something about breaking these giant goals into little steps and then just incrementally ticking them off. But yeah, having something around you, a little checklist around you, a little notebook in your pocket going, these are the 5 things. These 5 things will move the needle for me today. What do I got to do to get them done? There is some power in that. And again,
well, because a lot of times you're working on 10 different things. So on
at
your
least.
list could be, on your list could be 5 things of the 10 projects.
Yep.
And no matter what, whisper at the end of the day, whatever happens, it's usually some event that's out of your control. Something happens, a customer, an employee, and it just ruins, it spoils the day. And you're driving home and you're about to call it a fail. But with this approach of, hey, every day I'm going to make sure I get at least these 5 things done. If you accomplish those, you can break that chain of a lie to yourself and say, hey, boy, that wasn't planned. That really stunk. What happened there with, we have to redo that roof again. I don't know. We have to redo one whole side. It's going to cost us. We're going to lose a little bit of money, but you know what? We're still on track here. So it's all about the whispers in your ear that are lies.
Well, and the other thing that list does, how many of us get a phone call or get an email or get if you're on the road, a call goes sideways, right? How many of us have those things happen throughout the day? And so you're making way through your list, and then all of a sudden, you're just derailed off into the world.
Yep.
Having that list there brings you back to doing what you need to do. It brings you back to doing the hard things. And I challenge myself to put one of like the difficult obstacles of that. Like there's some easy check marks on there, like, hey, make this phone call or send this email or do this estimate. But then I put some harder things on there, that stretch me during the day. Like if I'm trying to avoid something, I put it in the dang list, then I can't avoid it anymore. Right. Like it forces me to do it. So
what you're revealing are the inner workings, because a lot of the stuff that we do, once we put things in place, kind of take care of themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not responsible for bringing in every dollar of the day or getting, our 100+ calls done each day. It's a team effort, right? But you're kind of revealing the inner workings of the mindset, because I feel like any one of us, when we see like a coworker or a peer or a friend who's like, they're in the negative zone, and in your head you're evaluating them. You're going, you're healthy, you got kids, you got a house, you got a job. Shut up, man. Stop your whining. Like, you ever tell a friend some version of that? Like, hey, you should be really grateful for what you have, instead of, does that work for the person that's in the zone? Absolutely not. But what works is when someone can help you, when you pull back the curtain, the cogs and the pulleys and the wheels. The best way we can help someone is to say, I know how you feel. I get in that spot too. Where are you hung up on? Where are you stuck at? And that's really important with your work team. If you come to work all excited and amped, it's because your path is very clear on this day, but it's not always. And when your team is not, you've got to come there and coach them.
Yeah, and that's where a mentor or a mastermind group comes in. Sometimes all of us need a super atomic dope slap, though. Doug is kind of sharing.
Every time I talk to Dr. Dan or see him in Overbooked, he's so chill and relaxed. He looks like Santa Claus. But he has these moments on Facebook and these statements that I'm thinking he's got this anger streak in him, but I know he doesn't. So that would be like Santa Claus going, Zach, hey, Zach. It's a love tap. It's a love tap from Dr. Dan.
But I mean, we all need those, right? Like there should be someone or a couple someones in your life that can go, hey, dude, like, wake up. Come on. All right, let's talk through this. Let's work through this. And that really is true. I mean, there's conversations that Doug and I have had. It's like, I got this thing going on. Okay, well, let's look at the mechanics of it. Let's look at this piece. Let's look at this piece. Let's look at the mindset here. Let's look at the goal setting here. And we kind of work our way through that until it's like, oh, well, it's really not a problem. It's just this one little thing that I got to make it a pivot on.
Sure.
All of a sudden, off
Sure.
we go. Right. So,
yeah. I mean, I think I heard it the other day between a couple of my managers. One of the guys definitely in a funk. My first thought is, I wonder what's going on. Is it just the grind of the job? Is it something at home? Don't really need to know, but you wonder if it is that, if it's got nothing to do with us. And I hear the conversation. It's a good conversation, but it's a little short-sighted. It's like he's the second highest paid technician here. He has the greatest service territory, the least amount of driving, the least amount of traffic, high-end customers. He has no right to feel this way. He should just be happy. And it's like, yeah, who wants to be diagnosed that? That's not going to help. That isn't, you're missing the point that no matter how much we have and how good it is, we can wake up feeling like it's not enough or there's a lot of problems, right? So it's about breaking it down. I love what you said. Trying to figure out mechanically what's something that you can change. And it's not something that we can tell them to do. We could suggest it to them, but they have to adopt it. They have to embrace it. They have to try it. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. So it's really about getting through to people to let them know, hey, what's one thing you can do differently?
And if you're a leader, this is the challenge for you to do with your teams. And then conversely, you should be having someone that is in your life that can do this for you. Hey, let's break it down. Let's walk through this. Let's figure out what's actually going on, and let's move the needle forward. And then you as a leader, when you're in a better space mentally, right? We don't even have time to go into this, but when you're in a better space mentally, you can lead your team better as well. And so are you leading your team in that same way? You've heard us. I ask a lot of questions. Doug asks a lot of questions, right? Like, ask more questions of your team. If you have someone in a funk, don't be like, dude, shut up. Just do the route. Like, get over it. Okay, what's going on? Okay. Well, why do you feel that way? All right, cool. What led you to begin to think that way? Okay. Right. What led to that? Yes. Right. And you just continue to ask more questions and ask more questions. And pretty soon they're like, I'm just being an idiot. Right. Like, it's just this little thing. And I let it derail my entire day, my entire week. A bad day is a bad day. Right. A bad moment is a bad moment. It's not a bad life. Right. And how many of us get sucked into that? Oh my gosh, everything's falling apart and it's terrible. And I hate this. And then we dive down that negative train. Yeah. It's just a bad moment. Right. Have someone in your life that can speak into that. And if you're leading a team, be the person that can speak into it. I've done that for the sound teams at church. The guys will be like, oh my gosh, everything's going wrong. That's not a big deal. Let's just go change this chord. Let's just go do this thing. Let's just go, and just find that little thing that it's like, oh, it's just this. Right. And help your team through those moments. Help them develop the mental fortitude. Right.
You kind of got to keep track, though. You have to there has to be a history of watching, right? A cycle. If you see a cycle and you've been a part of it 3 or 4 times in a year or in a couple years or in a couple months, that's it. That's what you need to take on, is something a little different, a different version of whatever that cycle is creating, and that means that you have to be willing to accept that what you did might be right, but it's not going to get you where you need to go, right? If I paid that technician $100,000 and that's what he said he wanted, if he said he wanted $101,000 and I said, okay, guaranteed, I'll give you $101,000. Do I think he's going to be the best version of himself starting tomorrow when I give him exactly what he thinks he wants? Now, I'm sure he wants it, but there's a lot more to what he wants. And that's the journey, is to help people figure out, what do you need today? What do you need today? What brings hope to you today? What brings encouragement to you today? What's a good day for you? So
I mean, that's an entirely different podcast episode, right? Like what are the inner workings of when we set these goals? Then like why do we want that goal? And what is going to drive us to that goal when it gets tough? And that's the reality, right? Like this is where you have to sharpen the mental fortitude, because if you set this crazy goal and you're like, I want this amount of money, or I want this amount of technicians, or I want this whatever, right? Why? Because there's going to be steps along the way that you have to answer the questions, because it is going to get hard. There are going to be moments where you want to quit. And what is going to drive you to that ultimate end goal, right? And it takes mental fortitude. It takes that mental strength. It takes that grit to get through those hard moments and get to that thing that you want. I was working with one of our new guys, and then we can wrap up from here, but he's like, well, I have this tax bill that I have to pay, and so that's why I want to sell a bunch of roofs. And I go, that's a crap goal. And he kind of looked at me, and I said, listen, nothing excites me. I'm just speaking from my personal, and I've been in that position. I'm speaking from my personal. Nothing excites me about it paying a bill. Like nothing is exciting about that. So when it gets hard, guess what? I'm going to give up because I don't care. I don't want to pay that bill, right? Like no one wants to pay that bill. And so that doesn't excite me. But what does not having the tax bill do? What other areas in your life does that free up?
Right.
Okay, this. Great. What excites you about that? Why is that important to you? And then we step through it until we're like, okay, so yes, the tax goal is the ultimate end, but here's all the pieces along the way that actually light you up, that are actually going to push you through when things get tough, when customers say no, when jobs fall through. These little things are going to drive you to that ultimate end goal. You have to break it down into baby steps. You have to find something that lights you up about that goal. Right?
Yeah, that's really great. I mean, the tax bill in this example is taking up a lot of brain power, mental space, goal setting. And so even if he hits it, he is literally stuck right after that's done. Like, what do I do now? Like, he may not say that out loud, but what do I do now? No plan, right? That's where I think Tommy Mello, I mean, there's so many successful people who have written books and created programs and talks and podcasts. But Tommy Mello, is always focused on his why and where he wants to go. And he doesn't want to build an empire either. He just wants to help people. And so I'd encourage you guys to dig up some Tommy Mello podcasts and stuff. And you'll notice he'll talk business, but a lot of times he's talking truly about us as individuals and what we want out of our lives, right?
EJ and Mike interviewed him the other day, so there might be another podcast dropping pretty soon.
Can you imagine that? Tommy Mello actually saying the words appliance repair or appliance service. That'll be a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, I'm excited for that interview. I was supposed to be there, but I'm excited that those two guys got it knocked out, and I'm excited to see the interview as it comes. So it'll be coming soon. Next mastermind, July 20th, business planning. So if you need a group of people around you to encourage you, to push you, to help you find that little piece, right? We're talking business planning on July 20th. So who is going to help you drive through these goals and help you plan the business? Get in a mastermind. Free to all access members, servicealliancegroup.com. Get in there, get a part of it. Get yourself surrounded by a group of people that challenge you and encourage you to be better every day. So,
amen.
Thanks for tuning in to our Prattle, guys. I will actually be back on Thursday. EJ and I are dropping a special episode on Thursday. Tune in. Be a freestyle for the 4th of July. See you guys next time on the Morning Grind.
Bye, guys.